Good evening, dear viewers. Thank you for tuning in. If you appreciate our coverage, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to tap the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Now, let's dive into this developing story together. Today, we turn our focus to the headline, Omoyele Sowore planning a protest for Nnamdi Kanu in Abuja tomorrow. There is a lot unfolding, and we'll walk through exactly what is happening, what it means, and things you should keep in mind if you're following this story. Here's the gist. Omoyele Sowore, who many of you know as a human rights activist and political figure in Nigeria, has declared that the protest for Nnamdi Kanu will proceed in Abuja on Monday, October 20, 2025. The protest is being held under the banner #Free Nnamdi Kanu Now, calling for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. He's been in detention after his extradition from Kenya in 2021 and faces terrorism-related charges. Now, the interesting and tense part, the authorities are pushing back. The Nigeria Police Force has issued a strong warning and pointed to a court order from a federal high court in Abuja that restrains protests around key locations such as Oso Rock Villa, the National Assembly Complex, Force Headquarters, and other high-security zones. The court order, Suit No. FHC/ABJ/CS/2202/2025, dated October 17, 2025, signed by Justice M. G. Umar, temporarily restrains Sowore and others from marching near those sensitive government facilities until a motion on notice is heard. In short, Sowore says the protest will happen. Police say, "We have a court order, stay away from certain zones or face consequences." It's a clash of rights versus restrictions. Now let's delve into why this protest is being called, and why it matters. The legal background. Nnamdi Kanu's case is not just about his extradition and the terrorism charges. Critics say his continued detention violates the 2022 judgment of the Court of Appeal which discharged and acquitted him. Sowore argues the government is ignoring that judgment. The right to protest. Sowore has invoked the constitutional right of freedom of assembly and protest. He argues that the court order is invalid because, he says, it was not properly served and has expired. Security and law and other concerns. On the other side, the police are emphasizing that rights are not absolute, they must be balanced with public safety, especially around government centers. They've warned of arrest, of tracking incitement via social media, etc. Political/symbolic dimension. For many Nigerians, the protest also taps into a broader feeling of injustice, rule of law, regional grievances, especially in the southeast where many see the Kanu issue as tied to marginalization. So while the headline is about Free Kanu, the theme is really about justice, accountability, and the state's relationship with minority/region-based demands. Let's talk about what we expect tomorrow, and what to look out for, because if you're following this story, you'll want to know the signs. First, the protest location. If the protest exists, will it respect the zones that are under the court's restraint or will it operate outside them? If protesters gather in restricted zones like near Oso Rock, that could heighten tension and lead to enforcement action. Second, the authorities' response. Will police stand down or intervene? Will the protest remain peaceful or will there be a spark of conflict? Third, public participation and social media. These days protests are as much online as on the ground. Social media posts, live streams, hashtags, #Free Nnamdi Kanu Now, will shape the narrative immediately. Fourth, the aftermath. Will the protest force a dialogue? Will there be arrests? Will this draw more attention to the legal case of Kanu and the wider political issues? And fifth, counter-narratives. Some voices might argue that this protest is politically driven, for example, by Sowore's movement, rather than purely grassroots. Others may raise concerns about security risks. It's not just about one side, the story is layered. Now, let me talk to you directly. Yes, you watching. If you're in Abuja and thinking of participating, or if you're just tracking this from other parts of Nigeria, here are a few tips to keep in mind. Stay informed, check legitimate news sources for updates on location, time, any changes in plan. Avoid restricted zones, if possible. If you are participating, try to avoid areas the court or police have specifically warned about. This could avoid unnecessary confrontation or arrest. Peaceful conduct. Maintain the peaceful nature of the protest. The moment any violence breaks out, the narrative shifts and legal risks increase. Use social media wisely. If you're posting live, be mindful of what you're sharing. Authorities have said they will track incitement via digital evidence. Stay safe. Protests can change quickly. Have an exit plan, avoid carrying weapons or anything that could be considered aggressive, and keep personal safety in mind. Understand your rights. As a citizen you have rights to assembly, but rights come with responsibility. Be aware of the laws around you. Broader perspective. Remember that while the focus is on Nnamdi Kanu, the underlying question is one of fairness, rule of law and state-citizen relations. Let me address why this matters to all Nigerians, not just one region. Firstly, when a state holds someone for a long time despite court judgments or judicial findings, it raises a red flag about due process and the independence of the judiciary. That's a concern for all of us, regardless of tribe or region. Secondly, the way protest and freedom of assembly are handled is a measure of how democratic a society is. If peaceful protests are met with restraint or suppression, then it affects everyone's right to speak up. Thirdly, the regional dimension cannot be ignored. Many in the southeast feel their concerns are sidelined, and this protest connects with broader themes of marginalization, identity, and self-determination. When one group feels deeply that they are treated differently, it can affect national stability. Fourthly, how the media covers this, how the public reacts, how the state responds, that will set precedents. If this protest goes ahead peacefully and leads to constructive dialogue, that's positive. If it's met with force or ends in violence, that also has implications. So, what could happen next after tomorrow? If the protest goes ahead peacefully, we may see increased pressure on the government to engage with the Kanu case, or at least respond publicly. If participants are arrested or there's violence, we may see legal challenges, human rights groups stepping in, and further tension. There's also the possibility that the government uses this event as a justification for stricter protest regulations, which again circles back to rights versus state power. On the flip side, if nothing much happens, it may fade quickly from public focus, but the underlying issues will remain unresolved and likely resurface. Let me summarize. Sowore is calling for a protest tomorrow in Abuja for Nnamdi Kanu's release. Authorities have a court order restraining demonstrations near key government zones. Rights to protest versus public order is the key tension here. The case touches on rule of law, regional justice, democratic rights. Participation, media coverage, and state response will shape what happens next. Before I wrap up, once again, if you're following this story, please ensure you're getting information from trusted news outlets. Be cautious of misinformation, rumors, and social media posts that might stir panic or false impressions. And, please, don't forget. Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification icon so you don't miss our upcoming updates on this story and many others across Nigeria. Your engagement helps us bring you better news and deeper analysis. So, Omoyele Sowore, many of you already know him. He's not a new face when it comes to activism or standing up against government policies. From his #RevolutionNow campaign to his long history as a student leader, Sowore has always been vocal. Whether you agree with his method or not, you can't deny that he's consistent when it comes to speaking truth to power. This time around, he's focusing his voice on the detention of Nnamdi Kanu. And for those who might not be very familiar with the background, let's quickly refresh it. Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, has been in custody since 2021 after being brought back from Kenya. Since then, he's been facing trial on several charges including alleged terrorism. But the issue is not just about those charges, it's also about process and fairness. Now, a court of appeal already discharged and acquitted him back in 2022, saying that his extradition was illegal and that the federal government acted outside the law. But the government didn't let him go. Instead, they appealed to the Supreme Court and continued holding him, citing national security concerns. That's why many Nigerians, including Sowore, are saying, look, even if you don't like what Kanu stands for, the rule of law must stand. Because when government disobeys court orders, it sends a bad signal. Today it's Kanu, tomorrow it could be anyone else. Now, the protest Sowore is planning is not just about Kanu alone, it's about how justice works in this country. It's about reminding those in power that the Constitution gives citizens a right to protest peacefully. And that's the part that's creating tension, because while citizens say, we want to march, the police are saying, we have a court order that restricts you. So, it becomes a test of democracy, and that's where the story really gets interesting. Let's look at how the authorities have reacted so far. According to reports, the police in Abuja have already deployed officers to key spots, including Unity Fountain, Eagle Square, and other major junctions around the city center. Their message is clear: any attempt to block roads or disrupt public peace will be dealt with. But Sowore has responded that the protest will go on peacefully. He said, and I quote from one of his statements earlier today, "No one can stop citizens from peacefully demanding justice. The government cannot use the court as a tool to silence the people." Now, Nigerians are divided about this. Some people support Sowore's move, saying it's time someone stood up boldly for justice. Others say the timing is risky, especially in Abuja, because of how tense the atmosphere already is. Remember, Abuja is the seat of power, and any small protest there gets big attention fast. Meanwhile, human rights groups are also weighing in. The SERAP group, that's the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, has said that government must respect the rights of citizens to peaceful protest. Amnesty International too has called for restraint on both sides, reminding the authorities that using force against unarmed protesters is against international law. So tomorrow could be a defining moment. If the protest goes peacefully, it might push the government to finally address the long-standing issue of Kanu's detention. But if it turns violent, it could easily lead to arrest or more restrictions. Now, let's be honest, every time we have protests in Nigeria, there's always that worry of infiltration. People with good intentions start something peaceful, and then suddenly others join to cause chaos. That's why Sowore has been emphasizing that tomorrow's demonstration must be peaceful. He said it's not about confrontation, it's about awareness. And that brings us to an important question I want to throw out to you watching right now. What do you think? Should Sowore go ahead with the protest despite the court order, or should he step back to avoid a potential clash with the authorities? Drop your opinion in the comments. I really want to hear what you think. Now, another angle that's worth talking about is the message behind this protest. Whether you agree or not, the call for Kanu's release has remained strong, especially in the southeast. Many people there see his continued detention as unfair treatment compared to how other cases are handled. But others say the federal government is just trying to prevent a repeat of past violence that erupted when the issue of IPOB heated up years ago. So you can see, it's not a simple yes or no matter, it's emotional, political, and even symbolic. Because for some people, Kanu represents freedom of expression, for others, he represents division. That's why tomorrow's protest is being watched not just by Nigerians but also by international observers. Let's not forget that Sowore himself has faced multiple arrests in the past for leading protests. So this is not new territory for him. But every time he steps out, he puts his own safety on the line for what he calls defending democracy. Whether you support him or not, that's something to think about. And by the way, please, if you're still with me at this point, thank you so much, I appreciate it. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That simple action helps us keep bringing you detailed, real-time news like this without fear or bias. Now, let's move to another connected point: how Nigerians are reacting online. On X, formerly Twitter, the hashtag #Free Kanu Now has been trending all through today. Some tweets are calling on the federal government to respect court judgments. Others are warning that the protest could lead to chaos if it's not properly managed. There are also comments from people who feel Sowore is just trying to gain political relevance. They say, why now? Why not focus on other national issues like the economy or insecurity? But his supporters counter that argument by saying that standing for one man's right is part of fixing the country's wider justice system.